What's up, everybody? It's Pastor G. I am grateful. I am grateful, grateful, grateful. This is the fourth video in this teaching on transition. There are three others I admonish you to go listen to those three. This is the fourth video. We're teaching this teaching from 1 Samuel, the 21st chapter, 1 Samuel 21. This is David transitioning from being just a common musician in the house of Saul or armor bearer into being king. Now, I want to say something to you. You are right now in the transition of your life. This is the greatest transition of your life. God is shifting you from just being in the back of the line. He's bringing you to the front. And this is all because you have a servant's heart. And God has seen your faithfulness. There's a spiritual law that is in operation. You have humbled yourself, and now he says it's time for you to be exalted. He can trust you. He's giving you greater level of responsibility in his kingdom work. You are in transition. Now, this transitional period can be so confusing. It can be so confusing because of how drastic the move of God is going to be in your life. He's ready to get started with you. Now, this word transition, by definition, is the process or a period of changing from one state or condition to another. You're coming from the back, and God is shifting you to the front. 1 Samuel chapter 21. I'm going to start reading today at verse number 3. And I'm going to hurry it and go real quickly because I want to get this into your life. You're transitioning. Verse 3 says, "Now therefore, what is under thine hand? Give me 5 loaves of bread in my hand, or what there is present." And the priest answered David and said, "There's no common bread under my hand, but there is hollowed bread. If the young men have kept themselves at least from women." 5th verse. "And David answered the priest and said unto him, Of a truth, women have been kept from us about these 3 days since I came out. And the vessels of the young men are holy, and the bread is in a manner common, yea, though it was sanctified this day in the vessel." 6th verse says, "So the priest gave him hollowed bread, for there was no bread there, but the showbread that was taken from before the Lord to put hot bread in the day when it was taken away." Now, let's bring context to this really quick. Verse number 1, David is running for his life from the house of Saul. God has created a conflict to get him out of his comfort. That's what you're experiencing in this season of transition. If we don't say yes to the will of God, and by hearing the word and moving, God will create some conflict that could be very confusing because he knows that you are comfortable where you are. You didn't ask for this move. You were comfortable in being a servant. And so he says, I've got to create a moment for you to shift out of what is comfort to you. So David runs for his life, and he goes, the text says, goes down the knob. This is verse 1. He goes down the knob where he encounters Ahimelech. The Bible says Ahimelech is afraid of David. Not because he's not familiar with David, but this time there is something different about this interaction. And David comes down alone. And so Ahimelech is saying, there's different. You always come with a company. This time, you're alone. This is what's happening in this transitional season. God is removing your crowd. There's some people that cannot take this journey with you. They are going to fall off at the directive of God. God is going to remove some things. Here it is. He's speaking to a priest that is familiar with them, and he's afraid of him. This season, there's going to be some people that perhaps have spoken into your life, might be afraid of you in this season because of the difference that God is doing in you. The voices might change in this season. The persons that might have been able to put a finger on where you were in this season, God might not tell them. Please hear this. God might not alert them of what he's doing. God is trying to do something firsthand in this season of your life. So Ahimelech is afraid of David because this is a different transition. The second verse declares that David says to Ahimelech, "The king has ordered me a business, And he told me to tell no man. This season of your life, what God has dropped in your spirit, you won't be on social media making an announcement about what you're about to do, when you're about to do it. This is something God is declaring that you are keeping to yourself because He's processing you during this process. He does not want you to be making an announcement because God does not want to compete with other voices. God, this is not building a brand in this season. There's something that God has already built for you. He needs your undivided attention in this season. So number one, your crowd is going to change. The voices that were speaking to you is not the voices that are speaking in the season. Number two, He's saying to you, this is a time to come aside. This is not the season to make an announcement or to build a brand in this season. You are transitioning into the positions of God, and this is a very strategic moment in your life. Pay attention, pay attention, pay attention. Now, in no way am I suggesting that you are breaking a relationship with people. No, that you don't have to follow a protocol. That's not what I'm saying. In no way I endorse people paying dues. I'm not talking to people that have not paid any dues. I'm not talking to people that have not served. If you have not served, I'm not talking to you. God is not transitioning. He only transitioned people that have been in a place of service. Now, let me also say this. I believe in paying dues, so I think that I should know what the dues are so I know when I got them paid off. Very important. Now, hear this. Now, hear this. In this season of transition of your life, everybody is not going to agree with the transition. It is dependent on how important you are to their program, if they'll say yay or nay. Now get this understanding, because you're going to hear some things in this season that will wound you to your heart from people that you thought you would never hear it from. That's just the facts of the matter. Let me say this in all fairness. Everything that someone says to you that wound you is not even all the time their intention to hurt you. They're just saying what they think is the right thing to say to keep you in a place of safety. But that can be very, very detrimental when God is designing or God is ready for you to shift into greater life. These are very volatile waters. These are waters that can be confusing. I want you to know this. I don't take that lightly. This is a time that you're going to have to move in faith. I trust that God is going to give you the fortitude to make every decision, every proper decision in this season of transition. There's a people that's waiting. God is ready to transition you into higher responsibility in Him. Now, let's go and unpack the third verse. This is very important. David has left because of conflict. God will create scenarios for people that won't leave their comfort zone. It is going to be very, very difficult because in this place that I'm in, there's provision there. Perhaps you even got status there. You love what you do. You love being in the position. You never asked for number one. You were good just pushing everybody else. This is not something that you prayed for. This is something that God has designed. Remember, a spiritual law is in effect. You have humbled yourself. Now you are being exalted. God can trust you. He needs more people with servant heart in the place of authority. So David is in a moment of conflict because of comfort. I like what I'm doing. I'm not asking for it. But God had already ordained the king. Your life has already been ordained for a place of authority. You are in comfort, so God creates conflict to get you moving. And so David is running. Now, this is a scary moment because how do you leave a place of comfort where everything is provided for you and say, now I'm having to leave and go out on my own and I don't know what I'm going to do? This will be a moment of total faith. This transition is a faith moment, believe me, like no other. But make the move. Now, watch this. David is speaking to Ahimelech. This is the third verse. I'm unpacking now. He says, now therefore, what is under thy hand? What do you got? I'm hungry. I'm running for my life. I am hungry. What do you have under your hand? What do you got that you can give me? This is what David asking Ahimelech. Now, this is very, very, very intriguing. The next thing that he says to Ahimelech. He says, give me 5 loaves of bread in my hand. Now that right there is really, really, really interesting. That he says, "Give me 5 loaves." Why did he pick 5 loaves of bread? Well, let me unpack it, and I want to speak this into the life of those of you that are in transition. This is a faith move. There was a conflict, perhaps, that made you make this move, and you are afraid because you're leaving your comfort zone. David said, "Give me 5 loaves of bread." I don't think it was random that he picked the number 5 because it speaks to you right now in your moment of transition. 5 is the number of grace. David says, I need a grace provision. I need provision of favor in this season of my life. In other words, I need uncommon provision. This is what God is saying to those of you that have obeyed his voice, and you took the leap of faith, and you says, I'm going to do what God said. He says there would be uncommon provision in this season of transition. 5, the number of grace. Wherever God guides, God will provide. I know it's a unsure moment because I left something good and I'm going out of faith. I don't know how. I'm conflict. How can I leave the people, everything that I ever known? They are upset with me, and then God's still telling me to shift. God is still telling me to move. But God says this is the season of grace. This will be a season of uncommon favor because you said yes to his directive. So David said, what do you have on your hand? I need 5 loaves. I need a grace moment. I need grace provision. Notice what the answer is. He says, whatever David. And the priest answered David and said, there is no common bread under my hand. In other words, what you are asking for is uncommon. Or he's saying to David, there's no common. He's telling David, you are common. What I have is uncommon. It's very powerful, very powerful. Because he don't know that David has shifted in the spirit. Remember, he's afraid of David because he didn't get the memo from God. There are some people that could put their hands on where you were. They knew or they could tell you what your level was. But this season, there will be people that was able to locate you that perhaps this time they can't. And so what you are asking for, what you are going for, what God has dropped in your spirit, they might say that's is not attainable by you. That you will never be able to get that in your position because they don't understand that God has shifted you. So David says, give me what you have in your hand. Now, David is in an unusual place asking for an unusual gift. This is very important that you get this. So the priest says, there's nothing coming here. He thinks he's talking to someone coming. In other words, what he's saying, this is the bread that is set aside for only the priest. Here's what God is saying to you in this season of transition. He's shifting you into your priesthood. Physically, that might not be a change, but spiritually, there is a change. He's shifting you into free. When God gives you this uncommon provision, he's declaring to you, you have shifted into an uncommon position. When he gives you this uncommon provision, he's saying to you, you have shifted into an uncommon. This is not something that you're coming with, but he's pulling you into a place. Now, this word showbread, if you really do the research and study on it, it's the bread of faces or the present bread. In other words, here's the picture of it. When the priest eat this bread, it was said that he was eating in the face of God, in the proximity of God. You cannot eat this unless you are in the presence of God. This particular provision won't come unless you are in the presence of God. In other words, it is saying that you're eating God's bread in God's house. And one other fact about showbread, it was always fresh. God always wants the relationship or the hearing to be a fresh moment of hearing. This is very important. This is very important. You're about to eat something very uncommon in this transition. God is shifting you into another level of priesthood. And so he's giving you a different level of a provision in this season. Jesus referenced this in Hebrews, not Hebrews, but in Matthew 12th chapter, Mark 2. he makes an illustration of this. He says, have you not heard about David? Because Jesus and his disciples have just went through a cornfield, and his disciples decided they were hungry. They're going to pluck off some corn to eat. And they were despised of the Pharisees because it was the Sabbath day. Here it is. It was the Sabbath day. It was not the right time. And as a matter of fact, it was not the right time to even be involved in this level of exchange. Here's what Jesus said. He said, have you not heard about David? He's referencing this passage, how he went into, hear me, into the temple. Watch this, into the temple on the Sabbath day and ate uncommon bread. Here's what the Lord is saying to you. When you obey him in this transitional season of your life, you will be able to go into unusual places on unusual seasons and be privy to unusual things. Let me say it again. You will be able to go into unusual places in unusual seasons and be privy to unusual things. In other words, he was saying David went into the temple on the seventh day and ate that was only made to be eaten by a priest. That's where you are shifting into right now. Uncommon provision. God is going to give you uncommon provision for this transition that you are about to make. You are moving into the next level. God is ready. Don't be afraid, because he's going to provide something that you'll never be privy to until you decide to make this faith move. I suggest that you make the move now. God is ready. He's ready to go. There again, everybody might not be happy about this move. This is going against everything that you know to do. You're going to break some systems. You're going to have to make a move of God. I would rather obey God and make God happy than to obey man and God be displeased with me. Don't be honorably disobedient in this season. Follow what God has prompted in your heart. Amen, amen, amen. Uncommon provision because you are in the season of transition. Get ready for it. Say yes to the will of God. God is taking you from the back. He's moving you to the front because of your heart as a servant. Now go be great. Pastor G is out.